Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And just like always, you fix one problem and another one props up. So here we are. There's a few things that we've done in the background, or rather, while we were working on the great industrial zone of circa episode, 15? It would seem that we're running a bit low on power. You will notice by looking at power available that it is finally going up, albeit slowly. And it's because we were using so much power. How are we using so much power? By running 3 metal refineries flat out. So we stopped copper production, and we're just going to have it run the steel and iron production right now. And with each steam turbine generating about 500 watts, that somewhat equalizes it. Not enough, though. We also need to adjust this thermal aqua tuner. There's no reason for this thermal aqua tuner to run flat out anymore because we have this thermal aqua tuner. Remember, when we first started with this aqua tuner, it was because we needed a way to cool our water so we could use it in our crops. We don't need that now. Now all we need to do is make sure that our base stays cool and our crops and everything else in our greenhouse has its own cooling system. That is kind of working. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this thermal aqua tuner only be just as effective as it needs to get rid of the steam. So what we can do here is, instead of saying, hey, keep running until you get to 0 degrees, we can just say, hey, keep running till you get to 50 degrees. That'll turn that off, and that is huge. That is a cost savings right there of 1,200 watts. It's very easy for a thermal aqua tuner to keep it around 50. Even with the steam coming out of here, it should be able to do that with much better efficiency. So that's going to be a good power savings there as well. And the reason why we're getting a little bit concerned about power is we're down to 14 tons of coal. And that's because our coal generators have had to do double duty and back up our solar. Now, we could add a bunch more solar. While we've ran out of room over here, we could expand over here. We could also go with the classic pyramid function and be able to stack more solar panels. Before we go to that end, though, I wanted to see if we can just sort of get a little bit more efficient on our power, and getting rid of or limiting the use of the thermal aqua tuner in this steam vent seemed to be one of the best methods. And also, we're already sitting at 6 tons of copper, so we'll just use this 3rd metal refinery as required. But we still want more coal eventually, right? We don't ever want to get to a point where we run completely out of coal. So then it got me thinking, we're producing a lot of other foods that we don't necessarily use. All of our dupes are living off of grub fruit preserve, thanks to all the grub fruits and the sucrose being provided by the Sweetles. But what about all the omelets, the barbecue? Even at this point, we now have bristle blossoms coming up every once in a while, which will give us access to gristleberries. So here's what's happening now. We're still cooking all of it, but it's not going into our deep freeze. Instead, it's being fed directly into this ration box, and this auto sweeper fills up this critter feeder as needed. So it's not likely that this is going to be a hugely efficient process. As you can see, we're still empty on the ration box, and we only have 16 kilos inside the critter feeder. This will at least give us some sort of sustainable source of coal, which is good. Right now we're sitting at 14 tons. We'll check back in a little bit and see where we are. I do not want to tame these hatches yet, though. I just want to let them wildly grow and reproduce as they see, which is a huge negative to how much coal they would end up producing. Right now, anything they eat will produce 50% of the coal. Being wild, they won't produce as much coal as they would have as if they were tame, but A, I don't want to spend the cost of having to tame them, and B, I'm not quite sure if we can keep them all fed yet. So we're going to see how this goes with giving them all the extra food and see where that takes us. On the other front, Gupola. Gupola is starting to run into a problem. We're out of polluted water. Well, there's other ways to get it. For instance, we do have a ton of regular water, and occasionally we do get sources of polluted water. There's a little bit over here. and as some of the polluted ice melts, but we also have access to a natural gas geyser. And if you remember, our natural gas generators produce polluted water. This might be a decent idea. All we'll have to do, break into here, set up a little natural gas refinery, and then we'll get a free source of polluted water. That's easier said than done, though. These folks over here, old Bubbles and Wolf Rider, they don't have suits. We're gonna have to figure that out as well. In the meantime, we also want to get started on space exploration. And I think this little area over here is going to be just the spot. We're going to set it up nice, though. I want to build this up with some nice tiles, make it look nice and flat, like, you know, a proper shuttle launch site sort of thing. All right, let's get to work. Step one, on the right side of this asteroid, even above the crust here, there seems to be a lot of good materials, so we're going to core those out. And then we're also going to start putting down a bunch of igneous tile. Why igneous? Well, quite frankly, it's slow to heat and it's cheap. We have plenty of it. So let's grab our igneous rock and we will just fill in all these spots here. We've also discovered another problem. At first I saw this pump was overheating, and for some reason we built it out of iron ore, and now they just keep going to repair it. So step one, let's make sure that we stop that. Deconstruct, there we go. The reason why it's overheating is because we're blasting heat over into the side. How? It's transferring over these heavy watt joint plates. Yeah, that was not meant to happen. I didn't even think about the heavy watt joint plates transferring heat. I want to see if we can put these heavy watt joint plates up here and then bring the heavy watt wire down through the vacuumed area. Now, unfortunately, this is going to be a little tricky because, you know, heavy watt joint plates are sealing in all of our beautiful steam. Let me see what I can come up with. All right, step one was getting power in through here without using the heavy watt joint plates. Now we need to remove the heavy watt joint plates without breaking the seal. So what we can do, deconstruct these one by one here. We'll seal in this area using a few tiles. And once they have that baked in, we'll pop this open and put some insulated tiles back. And the reason why we're a little concerned is because eventually it'll heat this entire area, A. B, it's taking heat away from our steam zone. And C, we don't want these large power transformers to overheat either. Now that that's locked in, we can safely deconstruct this heavy watt joint plate and then fill it in with some insulated tiles. And we will do that all the way down. Now, before we do that, I want to try to put another tile in here, because otherwise this little bit of oxygen, once we release these, will end up escaping into this steam. I'm not sure if the steam would just straight up destroy it anyways, but let's see if we can reach a tile to get into there. Perfect. And now we can put our insulated tile there, and that'll be that. All right, good as new, and now we're not pushing heat to the outside as we planned. All right, our rocket platform is complete, and I gotta say, it looks real nice. Look how flat, nice. This will give us a lot of nice construction area. Now we get to the business of actually building rockets, and we have a nice clean platform to start from. Over on Cupola, it's another story. I've started building Wolf Rider and Bubbles a small little base here, and the reason why is because we're going to need to put them in suits. And the reason why we got to put them in suits is because they're going to have to work with 150-degree natural gas, and that just is not going to happen without them in suits. In order to get them into suits, we need to have a source of oxygen. In order to have a source of oxygen, we're going to have to build a small little electrolyzer setup. And I'm thinking here might be a decent spot. I'm not sure 100% what this is going to look like. I don't think I've ever built one that is good for, 2 to 4 dupes. We're going to work with this a little bit. What I'm picturing is one electrolyzer, one pump down here, or one gas pump down here for the oxygen, one gas pump up here for the hydrogen. And the hydrogen will sort of hopefully make this self-powered. We'll see. This one's going to take a minute. All right, we've been a little busy. Here's what I've come up with for our little tiny electrolyzer setup. It's like a little tiny Rodriguez. I've never seen this setup before, so I'm still trying to tweak with the settings and the power consumption and all of that to make sure it's going to run. But we've been running for about 5-10 cycles now, and I have not seen a problem yet after we've gotten it all set up. The long and short of it is we have one hydrogen generator that powers this smart battery, which powers everything else. And you can see it's one gas pump for the hydrogen, and then 2 gas pumps for the oxygen, along with 2 electrolyzers. And so far, it seems to be just enough power. You can see here's our backlog of hydrogen. Here's some more coming. And we've even got the surplus hydrogen to this hydrogen generator, which feeds our main power supply for the rest of the base over here on Cupola. Now, the water is coming from our little freshwater tank. This isn't a permanent supply. Eventually, it will. For the rest on this little tiny Rodriguez, we've kept the same settings on the Atmos sensors as the standard full Rodriguez, and it seems to be working fine. 450 for the oxygen side and 250 for the hydrogen side. And so far, this is providing delicious oxygen and empowering itself. I'll see if we run into any problems. Now, additionally, why are we doing all this? Well, because we need some Atmosuit docks so that we can get into this natural gas geyser to get a permanent supply of water. The permanent supply of water will be coming from our, you guessed it, natural gas generator, which produces 67 grams per second. Now, my theory is that's going to be plenty of water to run both of these electrolyzers and give us a little bit of water for other sort of needs. Because as you can see, these electrolyzers are hardly ever running because it's max pressure in here. So what are those electrolyzers producing oxygen for? Well, we have our main base here, our little, I guess we can call it a tiny base too for over here in Cupola. It's only running a couple of duplicants. So we have a couple of Atmosuit docks here, and we'll eventually be able to put the Atmosuit checkpoint here. First, we need to deliver some suits. Well, instead of making the suits here in Cupola, we managed to ship a couple over from Butito. So now we have a couple of beautiful suits, and you can see this is fully oxygenated here. So are our suits. Now we do need to power them. We're starting to run a little tight on available power on this run. We may have to switch over to conductive wire soon. We don't use power so often on this side of the base, so this should be plenty. Once they finish the power wires and power up these Atmosuit docks, we'll put the checkpoints on, and then we'll be able to get into that natural gas geyser. I've also been busy over on Butito. I got a little sidetracked. So we redid our solar panel area. Since we had so much area over here, I thought it'd be a waste just to put our rocket silos. So I was like, hold on, why don't we expand our solar panels? And this is what we've done. And I'll show you in a minute, and you'll get to see how much power these actually produce when they're stacked like this. You can see that we're not getting 100% out of all 3 solar panels. And it's pretty evident from the light overlay. Because we have one stacked here, these 2 panels here aren't getting any light. This setup still provides more solar power than if it would if you just had the 2 by itself. Now, right now, these are only providing 240 watts each, and then this one provides 380. But the deeper we get into the day where there's more light, you can see that these bottom solar panels generate more and more power. I've seen them cap out at a little over 300. So it's definitely more power than just 2 solar panels sitting flat on the ground. It's kind of a modified pyramid. There's another pyramid that you can go where you keep stacking solar panels all the way up and then all the way down. To me, that takes a lot more space, and then you have a big empty space where you're not getting any light. And as you can see here, this is already up to 340 watts or something like that. Going over into our colony summary, you can go down here. We'll back it up 1 cycle. And you can see we're wasting about 780 kilojoules. Not too shabby. Now, because I'm a little OCD, we're now filling in this entire section with igneous rock tiles, because it has to be nice and flat, just like the other side. Actually, I think we went one too high, didn't we? Yeah, let's remove this. All right, the dupes are finishing up the last part of our little rocket platform. Doesn't that look nice? So clean and flat. Look at this. Starting to look like a real base. But now's the time we've all been waiting for. We have a little over 17 tons of steel. Our beautiful industrial brick has made sure we stay full on it. And right now the industrial brick is staying steady at around 125 beautiful degrees. So it's time for us to get into the business of building some rockets. What do we have to work with here? Well, first things first, you know we need a rocket platform, right? Let's go ahead and we're of course going to build it out of steel. I mean, this looks as good a spot as any, right? Beautiful. While the dupes are on Butito building our rocket platform, I wanted to show you some small changes over here. I was running out of power every once in a while, which is, you know, not great. So after we hooked it back up, which we can now remove the piggyback power. And the problem is our hydrogen overflow was coming out too late. So we had the bridge here, and so it would only build up a backup of hydrogen that went to this point. So we put the bridge way back here, and now this is our overflow hydrogen. As you can still see, it is still having some overflow, but now we have plenty of backup power that will be independent of how much oxygen we're actually using. We've also got our beautiful couple of Atmos suit docks running well, and so far so good. Next step over on Cupola is going to be breaking into this natural gas geyser and start to use it. But let's get to the business at hand. Looks like we have a beautiful rocket platform. Look at this. Well, we want to build a new rocket. Now here's the question. What are we going to build it out of? We have 3 engines available to us: steam, sugar, and carbon dioxide. So I was thinking first about using steam. We have plenty of steam in here. Unfortunately, our industrial zone is way down here, but we could easily just add water to it, and it would generate more steam, and then we could take that steam and put it right up in a beautiful rocket. But this thing is way far away, so I don't think that's going to work because the steam would just burst. But I have another idea. We actually do have a source of carbon dioxide that we are not currently using, and that once again is over on Cupola, right in here. A beautiful carbon dioxide vent. I'm thinking we brick this in, put a gas pump on it, and push the carbon dioxide over to the other base. This seems like as good of a method as any. We'll have to make sure that it is insulated because this is coming out at 500 degrees. All right, by itself, that's not going to work with just a simple gas pump. Here's our test gas pump over here on Butito. And even with steel, it can only go up to 275 degrees. So it looks like we're going to have to put a steam turbine or something else over there. So here's our Maiden rocket, the old Explorer 5. I'm not sure about that title, so if you've got an idea for a good one, put it in the comments below. We'll definitely be keeping this rocket around for a long time. It's got a big old interior. We're not going to do anything with it quite yet, just kind of admiring how much space we have to work with. And then we've got just the basic nose cone, because we don't need the living quarters per se since we're using the Spacefarer model. I think this will still launch when it's fully fueled with the carbon dioxide. We will see. And I also put a nice solar panel module on it. That way we can collect some power when we're out in space too. We'll see. This may not work quite right. We'll have to take a look at it once we get our fuel. Speaking of fuel, over on Cupola, this is the contraption that I'm thinking might work. We got the standard heat deletion device with the steam turbine and the thermo aqua tuner. And we got some radiant pipe in here. We're going to keep piping cold, probably ethanol, in through here so it cools down the carbon dioxide to a good enough point that we don't mind pumping it out with the gas pump. It's also critical because it's going to need to be used to keep the gas pump cool. We made it out of steel, which brings us up to 275 degrees. What's going to end up happening is we're not going to break into here until we have this nice and chilly. There's something about the look of all the nice, beautiful water mixing around before the thermo aqua tuner turns it into steam that I just love. We're almost done here. We did a quick change. I wanted to get the thermo aqua tuner in a nicer, tighter area. Also, I thought it would be better to have the carbon dioxide flow this way. I think this is a cleaner look, and we're going to see how this works. Step one is going to be turning this thermo aqua tuner on. Let's say minus 10. I think minus 10 will be good. So if it's above minus 10, turn on. And what's the great thing is we put a little bit of water down here, and that way this water will freeze. It'll help absorb some of that heat from this carbon dioxide vent. All right, the next step is going to be putting that beautiful steam turbine on top. I guess copper's fine. It's going to stay cool enough. With the steam turbine all done, it's time to crack this guy open, analyze it, and then get out of Dodge. We're probably going to seal it up right here with a nice insulated tile. And once it's sealed up, we can then turn this thermosensor green, which it is right now because it's below 10 degrees. I figured it's a good quantifier when we want to pump the carbon dioxide up. The only thing that's preventing it right now is we have not connected this up. I don't really want to do that quite yet. We'll leave it right there until we make sure this system is good. As luck would have it, this carbon dioxide is dormant. We're about to find out how long until it activates. Lucky for us, there is enough carbon dioxide in here, I think, to get us at least a small trip. We will see. Wolf Rider has finally completed the research, and it looks like the carbon dioxide will start spitting out in 17 cycles. Not a big deal. This room is already filled with carbon dioxide, so we will insulate it in, and as soon as that's done, we can flip this gas pump on, connect it up, and then we can be confident that the only thing coming out of this room is carbon dioxide. Save for one tiny blob of oxygen that somehow got stuck in there. So we're just going to let that little blob stay and not worry about it. And eventually it'll cause problems, but for right now it's just going to hover back and forth. The carbon dioxide will always sink lower. All right, now that that's locked in, let's go connect our pipes here. And then we can go over on Butito. We are about to receive a bunch of carbon dioxide from this vent right here. Now the question is, how do we get it all the way up here? This is going to be a long strand. Lucky we have some great workers here. Might as well do igneous rock. We still have an absolute ton of it. So let's try it out. And over on Butito, you can see we have our fresh carbon dioxide. Actually, this is not fresh carbon dioxide. This is pretty stale because it's coming out of this room right here. Now, eventually, this thing will go off and refill this room. So hopefully the carbon dioxide that we've had in this room will be enough to launch our maiden flight. And here's our brand new carbon dioxide source coming in fresh from Goopolo. Again, not fresh, stale. Now, unfortunately, we are already out of carbon dioxide, but it looks like it's enough to get us 2 tiles. We don't even plan on going that way. We just want to test this baby out. When you click on the rocket itself, it has the launch checklist, and you can see we've got everything checked except for pilot boarded. Well, lucky for us, we know exactly who the pilot's going to be. Old Camille. Remember Camille from way back in the day? Well, Camille is our pilot. They even have enough skills to be able to also do orbital researching and exosuit training and still only require a 16 morale. So, way to go, Camille. And with Camille finally in the rocket, let's slow this down and watch this puppy go. Now for our first destination, we are literally just going to go one tile out just to see how it goes. Begin launch sequence. Oh yeah, look at that rocket monstrosity. Now, you can see we don't have much for life support here for Camille. She's only got the oxygen in her suit, and that's about it because this rocket is a platform. But that's okay, we only wanted to get it to space. And there we are, the old Explorer 5, orbiting Butito. Well done. We don't have a lot of gas in this rocket. You can click on here in the rocket control station. Once you hit change destination on the rocket control station, it brings up this screen and it tells you, hey, you have 2 tiles of range remaining, and that's about it. But that's all we really wanted to do, especially considering Camille is about halfway out of her oxygen. All right, let's head back home. Click on Butito, rocket platform, and then you just click, hey, land here. And then our beautiful rocket lands Elon Musk style. Look at that, huh? So we've gotten a lot accomplished. Just as a sort of recap, we have our nice, beautiful, flat top of our asteroid where we have our power station. We're also going to have our I guess, our spaceport. Pretty nice. Our industrial zone is still kicking great. It's staying steady at about 120 degrees here. Over on Cupola is where all the change happened. We have our nice carbon dioxide source and cooler. This is eventually going to come out of here at 500C. We're going to see if this thermal aqua tuner can keep up. I'm pretty sure it can. We also built them a little mini base here. As you can see, they're out of calories, which means it's time for me to send some more over from Cupola. Next episode, we're going to be cracking into this natural gas geyser to get some infinitely sustainable source of polluted water. And we'll take that polluted water and start putting it back into our bog buckets. That way they are not alone and unafraid without any food. And speaking of which, here's some fresh grub fruit preserve coming over from the other colony. We'll wait until that's 10 or 20 days worth, and then we'll shut that off. Just give them enough to sustain themselves until we can get the rest of the geysers going. We did a lot. I had fun. I hope you did too. Talk to you soon.